All right, sellers, we have got a great video for you today. We are going to help you with a good handful of things you kind of want to be aware of when you're thinking about selling, and you want to talk to your real estate agent about these really important things. And this is why not all real estate agents are created equal. And this is important. Make sure that you're hiring somebody who's going to really nail down the details for you, because ultimately it's going to matter on your net proceeds. And that's what it's all about when you're selling property, right? Okay, first of all, let's start with the number one thing. And I would say beware of the all cash transaction. Now you're scratching your head and you're thinking, Judy, what could you possibly mean? On Longboat Key, we mostly do all cash transactions. Well, that's definitely a true statement, but I think you have to beware of this because what happens is many times an agent who's representing a seller, a buyer comes along, makes a great offer, it's an all cash transaction, you get the contract, and it says all cash, but they don't provide a proof of funds. Now, this is crazy to me, and I've seen it many, many times, and it just kind of blows my mind. As a seller, you must require a proof of funds because you need to know where that money is coming from and make sure that your buyer has the amount of money that you need. Is it liquid funds? Is it in stock? Is it coming from the proceeds of the sale of another house? And let me tell you, sometimes it's buried deep in that 13-page contract. So your agent needs to go through and really understand exactly where that cash is coming from, why, when, where, and how. Okay, so that's number one. Now, number two on my list, let me just check my list here. Oh, this is important. So typically, once you have a contract, you're going to have the buyer is going to put money into escrow. Make sure it's a decent amount of money so that if something happens in the transaction and you've been off the market for a while, you're using that deposit kind of as liquidated damages. So you want to make sure that, first of all, the deposit is decent, and number two, that the money actually gets deposited into the escrow account. Yes, it sounds so simple and it's part of the contract, but sometimes it's late and sometimes it doesn't even happen. Not on my watch, I can tell you that. But I must tell you, I always require, when I represent a seller, I always require that the buyer put in that escrow in advance of the inspection because you want to make sure that they've got a decent amount of skin in the game and that they're going to come, for the inspection and that, they don't actually have to be there, but that they're going to have a reputable inspector come and they're willing to put their cash up to really hold that property off the market during the inspection period if there is one. So that's important. Okay, moving on. I'm going to tell you that another thing that I think is so important and sometimes overlooked is the seller is selling fully furnished or turnkey. We see that so much on Longboat Key because typically when a seller is going to sell, they don't want to, get rid of all their furniture and show the unit empty. And sometimes that's a good idea, sometimes it isn't, and it really depends on the circumstance. But please keep in mind that if you're a seller and you're selling turnkey or fully furnished, that means everything. Do you really want to sell every single thing that's in your unit? Maybe there's a photo or a family frame or a piece of art or ceramics or even something just simple like a book that could be important to you that might have been your parents or might be yours or whatever the case may be. So when you are going to sell turnkey furnished, make sure that you have a good understanding and that your realtor has a very good understanding of exactly what is included. I like to do an inventory list because I think it makes sense. We have both parties sign up on that inventory list and we do it with photos so that there's never a mistake. Okay, next on my list is putting buyers and sellers together. So many times, particularly if you're going to sell a house or a rather large condo, as a seller, you feel like, you know what, I really want to explain everything to the buyer so they can have an understanding of all the working systems in the house, that they understand all the quirks. And let me tell you, that is noble and so appreciated. But I'm going to tell you that on my watch, that's not going to happen until we close the deal. Why is that? Well, for many reasons, or maybe, once we have a no contingency contract, it's possible that we could do it, but very rare. So why are we so reluctant to put the buyer and the seller together? The reason is because these personalities have never met before. And generally speaking, there is a lot of money at stake in this transaction. And one wrong comment or one thing that you might reveal that maybe needs to be handled in a different way is not going to represent your best interest. This is why you hire a real estate agent who is experienced, who knows how to represent you and how to speak to the buyer. Now, we're not interested in covering anything up, but there are certain things that, need to be dealt with in very specific ways. And that is why you hire an agent to handle all that communication for you so that you do not have to think about it. So those are some of the things to think about when you're thinking about selling. We're not talking about price in this video. That is a completely different video. But we're talking about some very specific things that really can make a difference in your real estate transaction. And it's our job to protect your best interest and get you the highest amount of net proceeds for the sale of your property that we can. I'm Judy Mitchell. I work and live right here on Longboat Key, and I would love to talk to you more about selling your property here on Longboat. You can contact me by either calling me at 941-275-6838, or you can just check this on YouTube for my contact information, or most certainly you can find me online. I hope that this video has been helpful for you, and I really appreciate you watching. Thanks so much.